Hey, Summer Moves On. I hope you're having a great one. And thank you for finding us wherever you get your podcast. It is the DC Sports Huddle. I'm Dave Johnson, Rob Woodfork, Dave Preston. George Wallace is on vacation, deserved. We are sponsored by MGM National Harbor. For the latest in Washington sports, visit MGM National Harbor and experience a sports fans in paradise, a sports fans paradise. That would be, maybe that's what George Wallace is doing. And maybe we could debate about whether his vacation is deserved or not. But we have a home run derby champion, the second national to win the home run derby. The other was Bryce Harper. Both left town shortly after. It seems like deja vu all over again, to quote the great Yogi Berra. But before we get going on some of the serious machinations of the Juan Soto situation, he wins the home run derby. The home run derby, if the game had been tied, the All-Star game had been tied, would have been a home run derby to decide it. So they're trying to give the home run derby new legs, new life. What is our favorite skills competition? Do we still love the home run derby? I tried to watch all 2 hours and some the other night of it. Is it the NBA slam dunk? Or did once Dr. J retired and Michael Jordan, is that gone? So Dave Preston, I see you smiling. What do you have a favorite competition, a skills competition?
You know, I love the NBA slam dunk competition until guys started opting out in the late 80s, early 90s. This takes us back a long time. I love the three-point shot. You know, that's awesome as well. Home run derby, I wish they could make it go by quicker, or maybe tape or massage it in a manner that there's quicker resolution to it. But I had a chance to witness the home run derby 4 years ago when Bryce Harper won it at Nationals Park. It was definitely thrilling, and it was awesome to watch Monday evening. I think the best skills competition that we've got, because, you know, we all can't, not all of us can dunk. I'm going to speak for myself, or even hit threes. I could probably do the screen setting competition, or, you know, or passing to the outlet man competition. But everyone in wiffle ball, you hit the ball at least once a long ways. So I think, you know, the home run still captures our imagination. I think that the home run derby is still the best skills competition. Is it the best run competition? No, but it's the one that causes the most imagination in myself.
All right. And you know what? But one thing I wanted to say about the other night, and they did a wonderful job, ESPN, and Carl Ravitch does a wonderful job, but there were times, because they had that split screen, you see the guy swing, and you'd also see sort of where it went. And there were a couple of times they called the home runs that weren't home runs, and it confused me and kind of threw me off. So it was a little bit just jarring. I'm not even sure if that's a word, but it's a summertime word. Rob Woodfork, where are we going with this?
First of all, and actually I posed this question to Sean and Hillary on the air the other day, and we all said the home run derby, but I give it this caveat, is that it's the home run derby today in 2022. The dunk contest, to me, I mean, that was my lifeblood when I was a kid growing up in the 90s. And so really for me, the dunk contest kind of died after Vince Carter's amazing performance in the 2000 All-Star weekend. After that, it starts to lack creativity. There's only so many things that you can do with a dunk at this point, and I feel like we've pretty much seen it all. Now it's pretty gimmicky, and they can't grade it accordingly and all of that. So the home run derby is just, you know, it's a great display of power hitting and prowess. It kind of screws with the guy's swing, I guess, for some point. So hopefully Juan Soto doesn't have a lackluster second half because of that. But I would say today, the home run derby, although the 13-year-old Rob would probably take a swing on me for saying that.
All right.
And I hate to jump in, but you talk about how you wonder if it's going to mess up with Soto. Last year, he participated in the home run derby. I think he hit 19 of his 29 homers after the All-Star break. He also hit 348 after the All-Star break. So he wasn't just hitting for power after the Midsummer Classic. Hopefully he's able to turn this into some mojo and go from there.
All right.
Do it in a national uniform.
Yeah, well, that's another story. I'm going to throw in something totally different, but as we have these quirks that sometimes settle things in sports, I wish in soccer, instead of penalty kicks, they would decide it with an American invention, the shootout, where one player starts from the 35-yard line, and then the goalkeeper obviously starts from the goal line, and they both move. And to me, it's more of a skills competition as opposed to a lottery. There's always the debate, did the goalkeeper move before the shot? You know, now they're letting the kicker stutter step and juke and do all this kind of stuff. Stop it. Just blow a whistle. They both move. and it's more of a skills competition, and that could settle big games. And often penalty kicks do settle big games that are so tight.
Like the women's game the other night. Yeah.
Yes, right. So have a shootout. And it was something that was developed by the Americans in the late 70s in the old North American Soccer League. But because we developed it, I don't think they'll ever go to it, but they should go to the shootout, just like Major League Soccer started with, to decide ties. All right, as we talk about, I want to get this out, as we're talking about changes to sports or tinkering with things. Major League Baseball is talking about the pitch clock is coming. Now, how do we feel about that? They say in minor leagues, they've cut down a half hour to games to about 2 hours and 37 minutes by use of the pitch clock. Is that what we want to see in baseball?
Of course.
I think
speed up the game. I mean, look, we have the shot clock in basketball. You have the play clock in football. Why wouldn't you have a pitch clock in baseball? This is my biggest gripe with baseball, actually, is that above all of the major sports in this country, it seems like baseball has the biggest resistance to change. And it's just because it happened in 1892 or whatever, doesn't mean that it's good in 2022. So if you have a way to make your game better and to make it more aesthetically pleasing and to make the games progress a little faster and in some respects create more of a competitive challenge, then why not do it?
Right. Okay. All right, Dave Preston.
I would welcome it. Bob Ryan, former Boston Globe writer, he still does some work for them, does some work for ESPN. He's releasing a book about the 1 year that he covered the Sox in the 70s, where he was their beat writer, and he included a lot of old scorecards and how to keep score, this, that, the other thing. And you look at some of the times: 2 hours, 35 minutes, 2 hours, 5 minutes, an hour 52. And we don't have those games now. No. When I go cover a Nationals game for WTOP, I'm pretty much booking 3 hours. I'm like, okay, if it starts at 7:05, we hope to get done by 10 if we're lucky. And very often that will go until 3.5 hours, sometimes even 4 hours, depending on what's happening. I think the pitch clock is a great idea because you need to create constant motion. You need to keep the game moving forward. The game can be so stagnant. And that's just where you die mentally, and you're trying to stay in touch with the action.
All right, there was obviously no pitch clock in the 70s, so the reason just there weren't as many pitching changes.
Guys move quicker, fewer pitching changes. Also, guys move quicker. There was fewer. Nomar Garciaparra wasn't around adjusting his wristbands and hat and giving himself fist bumps all the way through. That was annoying.
There is more to adjust, more sponsored things to get in there, sponsored gloves, sponsored elbow pads. It's apparently coming in robo umpires. Right. Do we want that?
I think you need to have some. I think if they handled it like they do at Wimbledon, where you do have an umpire, a linesman, someone who is looking, but then also if the umpire, because we've seen a lot of strike zones that are egregiously bad, and there are a lot of issues with umpires. Their union is so powerful. They have these guys who are probably umpiring, 2-3 years after they should be demoted or let go or moved into administrative duties, we'll call it. It's tough to get rid of bad umpires, and there are quite a few, and the consistency of strike zones is not there. And I don't think batters and pitchers, I don't think they care if they've got a big strike zone or a small strike zone to deal with. They just want consistency. And we've seen, especially with the pitch trackers now, 21st century technology, we can see, exactly if the call was right or if the call was off. I think a batter or a pitcher, maybe is allowed a challenge or two where they go to the video like they do at Wimbledon when they want to see if the ball's in or out.
Right. Okay. I would agree with that. I keep real umpires. Yep. Keep real umpires. But you're allowed a certain number of challenges, which now that you have a pitch clock will slow down the game, and all the progress you made from a pitch clock will be slowed down by challenges of the strike zone. So I just argued myself out of some logic, but that's okay. But no, I do think umpires need to be kept. I really don't want to go so far that we lose the human element, and that especially in baseball, I think a certain umpire, the way he calls strikes, as you said, consistency is the key. And so but you want that author on the game of the umpires because they've always been a part of the game. Rob Woodfork.
No, I mean, you're right. I think you do need to keep the human umpires, but there's got to be a way to sort of bridge the gap there, or sort of meet halfway, where you're using technology to help the human umpires make better and more consistent calls. And some of that is on them, obviously. And, you know, just like you said, like people's strike zones are different depending on the guy, but you know, if there's a way to properly gauge that with using technology, then absolutely you should keep the human umpires and just give them as many resources as possible.
Okay, so why don't we get computers for weathermen so we can help them? Oh, that's right. We already had that. And that's not working. All right. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that if you're going to have you know, robotic umpires, why not just use a pitching machine? Why not just give every team a pitching machine to work with, put that on the mound and fire that up? I mean,
right. That would jack up scores.
I think so.
I love pitching machines in Little League baseball practice because that was fun to hit. Then when you, at 10 years old, went against some kid who was trying to throw as hard as he could, but had no control, you ended up getting hit. So it was not as much fun as a pitching machine. All right, we buried the subject that everyone's going to be talking about for a while. What do we make of this Juan Soto situation? It clearly seems to me that obviously that it's real that this team is for sale. That this needs to be resolved before there's any kind of sale. A new owner does not want to come in with the Soto contract not resolved one way or the other, whether a new contract or a trade. The first thing a new owner comes in, he does not want to be, or he or she does not want to be the person that says, I'm the one who got rid of Juan Soto or didn't re-sign Juan Soto. We seem like we're at an impasse, but also we're also smart enough to know that sometimes when it gets loud and noisy, that's when you're closest to a deal. That might not be the case here, but it's worth noting. Guys, your take.
I think the 15 years, $440 million, I'm not going to say it's a ridiculous offer because it is a ton of money, but when we're smart enough in 2022 to be able to do some simple math, and we kind of know that that's under $30 million a year. And the going rate for the elite players, of which Juan Soto is a part of, is $30 million a year plus. Now, I think if you shave 2 or 3 years off of that, maybe $440 million over 12 seasons, that sounds like a fair deal right there. Or bump them up to $500 million for 15. That would be, or 14. That would be something as well. I think the agent, Scott Boras, would love to have baseball's first $500 million man. And I think Juan Soto is going to be that guy, whether he gets that deal here or whether he gets it somewhere else. So it's just a question of, do the learners and does the current, brain trust, do they think that they can sign Soto for that amount of money over that amount of time and hamstring themselves elsewhere? Because even though this is Washington, a top 10 market, it's not New York, it's not LA, it's not silly money. They're not, they're not, there are budgetary restrictions, even though this is not a salary cap league. So this is going to be the dark cloud in the sky of the Nationals skyline until either they trade him, until they sign him, or until he walks away. And I think the way things are going, I think he might be gone perhaps this offseason. I don't think he goes between now and the trading deadline because so many ducks in a row need to be handled as far as who you're getting back for him. I think he's gone by this off. I think he's gone at some point in time in this offseason.
Rob Woodfork.
Oh boy. So here's here's my take on this. First of all, you have to do whatever it takes to keep Juan Soto because he's the face of the franchise. He's got the megawatt smile, and you need a guy like that. You need a face of the franchise, especially when you're doing this rebuild. Sports, we've bemoaned this a lot many times here. Sports is a business, so you can't, in terms of selling the team, in terms of selling this team on the fan base that is still growing and you're still trying to cultivate. You got to have a guy that you can rally around, especially when you're going through a painful rebuild. So if you have to cut a $500 million check, you have to cut a $500 million check. I just had to do the math to see if 15 years, $500 million still works out to market value. That's about 33 million annual, average. So that's certainly something that I don't think he would sneeze at. So I think you need to, whatever it takes. As a matter of fact, even if you have to give him a Bobby Bonilla deal and keep paying him into his 70s, you do that, because he is a generational talent. Mike Rizzo could do this into his hundreds and never find a guy like Juan Soto again. But that said, if Juan Soto just doesn't want to be in Washington anymore for whatever reason, we saw the report about the Nationals wouldn't charter a flight for him to the All-Star game. So if for whatever reason just the dynamic has soured and he just wants out of Washington, then maybe St. Louis makes a lot of sense. They've got a prospect, Jordan Walker, who's got a big arm, big bat, and Washington hasn't adequately addressed the third base situation since Rendon left. And the Dodgers have the best farm system in the majors. Maybe you can raid their pantry again, like you did last year. So those are two instances that I'm not super wild about, because I don't want to see him in those colors. But I mean, that's a break glass in case of emergency sort of situation to trade him. I think you do whatever you have to do. If you have to put a blank check in front of him, you keep him.
Well, I agree that you keep him for a number of reasons. He makes the franchise more valuable, I think, to somebody purchasing. You're coming in with a face of a franchise along with the other things. But and I believe this ownership group has shown that they're willing to do it. When you think about the Max Scherzer contract, and at the time people thought, wait a minute, $21 million a year, that seems like, well, turned out to be a very good contract for Max Scherzer. So I still believe, to what Dave Preston was talking about, that you shave a couple of years off one way, do you add some more the other way. I think there's a ballpark of fairness that they're playing in here, that the gap can be bridged, and I believe that he would be okay with staying here. I don't subscribe to the theory that he's pointing to a place where he wants to go, where he can win now. He's 23 years old. He's already experienced what it's like. That doesn't mean that's the only World Series he wants. I'm not saying that. I just think that he's never said he wants out of here because he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. He's got time of his career to be a part of a rebuild. And as we've also seen, look what's going on with the Orioles right now. Yes, it was painful. Yes, it took a few years, but it didn't take 20 years. I mean, the Orioles, were a playoff team. When was the last time? 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. 2016. Okay.
Wild card.
My point being is, I think the Orioles are definitely on the right track right now. They have a lot of young talent, and they've gone through the pain, and now they're seeing the benefits of surviving that pain and developing their farm system in the proper way.
But the thing is, I don't think Soto wants to be the bad guy. He saw what happened when Bryce Harper left. Like, the fans turned on him pretty much right away. And I only think part of it has to do with the fact that he went to the Phillies. So I think Soto is saying all the right things right now. I want to be here. I'm a National and all of that. But I don't know how much of that is just sort of, to sort of ease the blow of him leaving, as opposed to him really actually wanting to be here. And I'm not calling the guy a liar or anything like that, but I mean, he saw a direct, we mentioned the tie between him and Bryce Harper winning the home run derby and then being gone the next year. Well, he saw how the fans soured on him, and I don't think he wants to see that happen to him.
Well, and I think he's also probably seeing that it's no guarantee you move to the next place, and that he's seeing firsthand with Bryce Harper and the Phillies. Dave Preston's got lots of stuff coming up on WTOP.com. We'll look forward to that. As always, we appreciate your time in the DC Sports Huddle. We're sponsored by the MGM National Harbor. For the latest in Washington sports, visit MGM National Harbor and experience a sports fan's paradise. We'll see you next week.
Break.